I think everybody gets tired of getting their ass kicked every weekend, and it's really taught me to go back to work and work. You got to work harder, and I have always understood and lived by the mentality of, that you beat talent when talent refuses to work harder. So you work harder than the talent.
Green flag in the air.
Hey everyone, after a 2-week hiatus, we are back with Hot Lappin' with Lanman, episode 7. Really looking forward to today's show. We have got Rico Abreu coming on to visit with us. We're going to talk a little bit, actually we're going to talk quite a bit to Rico about his how his career got started, where he's at today in his racing world, some other things about his life, and it's just going to be some good stuff. So really excited to have Rico coming on here with us. I just want to tell everybody, if you have enjoyed what we have put out for the last couple months, hit that subscribe button for me, hit that follow button for me, hit that like button. You know, the more support I can get from you guys, the more it's going to help me out in the long run, and I just appreciate all the support you have shown me so far. Let's not mess around any longer here. Let's get right into the show. It's going to be a good one. I'm excited to have it. So this week we have Rico Abreu joining us here on Hot Lappin' with Lanman. And Rico, first of all, I really appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule. I know you guys have a heck of a schedule coming up here. Not just the next 30 days, but the next 60 days. So appreciate you joining us here. And what's going on back home in Brownsburg?
Oh, we just got done washing everything up from our weekend racing in Knoxville. But thank you, Landman, for having me on the show. I've watched a couple of them. The one you did with Ricky was really cool. So it's just very fortunate to be on the show this day here.
Thanks. I appreciate that. You said you just got done washing your stuff up from Knoxville, and that's something I wanted to open up talking about. Knoxville's been pretty good to you the last couple of weeks. Tell us a little bit about first rolling over there for the Outlaws show, only getting one night in, but then going back there to see if you were really as good as you thought you guys were. And tell us a little bit about 2 weeks in one, because talk about an emotional high.
Yeah, we made it a real point this year to go race at Knoxville. I feel like it takes a little something extra to put yourself in position for the Nationals. So we started the season, with the Outlaws there at Knoxville, and then, got the win and came back to the local show. The format's a little different. Obviously, they invert 6 in the heats. So I feel like that sets you up a little better for the Nationals prelim nights, and all the data we can collect. My main mechanic on my race car has got a pretty good notebook there, so it allowed us to work on some different balances of our car going back 2 weekends in a row, and all the data we can get, I think, is so important going into August.
And that's something I never thought about either. You guys go back there and you obviously you wanted to time well, and you did that. I think you were second quick, if I remember right, or were you quick time? But
Second quick,
yeah. And so you were coming out of you were in real dirty air on the start of a heat race, and you pounced and you made some moves there, and I never thought about how important getting that is too, not just logging laps there.
I think that's the biggest part of your week at the Knoxville Nationals is getting through your heat race. Everybody can put up good qualifying laps, and then focusing more too for us on, not allowing the pill draw to affect your qualifying night, where you got a good qualifying balance. So that's why we go back. I went back this weekend, ran a lot of bottom, because I felt like, at the Outlaw show, the bottom in 3 and 4 was going to win the race eventually. So, I told Ricky I wanted to make it a point to run around the bottom this weekend, and I really focused on those high pressure, high intensity moments, racing around the bottom, and got racing with Carey and Reitzel, and knew that those guys are heavy hitters when it comes to cushion pounding and moving around on the racing surface. So that was the big thing for me is moving around, feeling different points in my car, racing in dirty air, lap traffic, getting into lap traffic, getting real racy, and just focusing on putting yourself, continuing to be consistent, put yourself in position.
You talked about telling Ricky what you wanted going forward too, and then able to execute that plan. But We're going to talk about Rick a little bit later on in the show, too, because he's been a huge part of your team. But going into Knoxville, especially, Ricky Warner knows how to win that race, and he knows how to get the car the way the driver wants. So tell me about the communication with you and Rick, and especially at Knoxville. That is the biggest race of the year.
Yeah, Ricky, his half mile, stuff, just attention to detail is really what I feel like separates himself, from other teams, and his direction and leadership with the team, myself, his way to coach me through, difficult times out on the track where we feed off each other, quite quickly, and I'm able to, get up to speed faster when the racing surface changes. And Ricky's obviously has, a fair amount of experience racing with some incredible race car drivers over his career, which has allowed him to bring that to me and speed my learning curve up that much faster. I feel like I'm learning every weekend, and in order to have a shot at winning the Knoxville Nationals, you have to practice there, and that's what we've really made it a point to do the last few years, and really, I think if you look back at my career, this year, last year, and in 24 and 23 are really my first time at having a shot at winning the Knoxville Nationals, or just tasting that blood. And I've really been eager about going back and getting as much practice as we can.
I was sitting in the comfort of my recliner watching you guys there Saturday night. I had all 5 of my TVs going for all over the country, but I noticed you said your goal was to leave Knoxville, Iowa as the points leader at Knoxville Raceway, and mission accomplished.
Yeah, that was I was telling the Duncan family that do the track and John McCoy at the Outlaw Show when they were before the B main pushed off, because I went down and looked at turns 1 and 2, and they're always standing down there in the corner, and I said I'm coming back. I told John I'm coming back next weekend, and John McCoy does an amazing job just at that facility, and the whole fair board, and their vision and direction with the sport of sprint car racing. They're so invested in it, and growing the sport, and that's why another reason why I go back there and want to support those guys. And they invest their money back into the local community, into the track, they bumped up the purse for the local shows now, and it's just it's important that a team like us goes there consistently, and let alone, yes, you get notes and data for racing there, but you also support that community of Knoxville and those fans that show up every weekend. I think that's a big deal for us too.
So can we quash all the rumors right now? You are not a full-time weekly racer at the Knoxville
Not a full-time weekly racer. We pulled off the Knoxville Raceway tour there for weekly races.
Yeah, so you're gonna have to give the title back to somebody as the point leader as of next Saturday.
I'm sure. So who's Austin McCall run third? So I don't know if he's running full-time Knoxville points. I think he run third, but he might be the point leader now.
I don't think he's even announced yet this year either. I don't know. They said they're going to try to change their schedule up quite a bit, and they've been really fast all over the country too.
Yeah.
And Brian Brown he's notoriously missed some nights, even though he is very, very good at Knoxville. And Reitzel, all of you guys have been all up front both weeks. So I don't know where that leaves the point. So it'll be fun for everybody to look in there next Saturday too. And looking at your schedule, I don't see you back there until June for a 2-night deal.
Yeah, June with the World of Outlaws. So we do June, and then we'll do Weiler night there before the weekend before 360 Nationals. It's like the tune-up to the Nationals, and then we're going to run 360 Nationals this year and then roll right into 410 Nationals. And then on Sunday after 410 Nationals, we haul ass to California to get to the old Thunder Bowl, do some Harry Hall thing out in California.
And the Thunder Bowl, I was just looking at some of your results, looking at some homework on you. Thunder Bowl has got to be one of your top 2 or 3 favorite joints to go to, isn't that where you got your first ever 410 win?
First ever 410 win. I won my first ever World of Outlaw win there, and I swept the Trophy Cup all 3 nights there in 2019, I think. And I haven't won there with Rick yet, though. So I've made it a point. I told Rick we gotta fix up your stats here for West Coast racing.
Or maybe just give him the weekend off.
Yeah, he would probably Well, you make a good argument that he needs to go feed the deer and check on the deer stand.
Yeah, check the cameras. Did
Yeah.
yeah. So 2019, did they rename it the Rico Abreu Thunderbolt Speedway?
I still I think Tim Kading or Brent Kading are probably the most winningest drivers there. But it's definitely a track at the top there for me. Just the style of racing, kind of bull ring, reminds me of a little bit of like Lincoln Speedway. You get the end of the races that with the half moon, it builds up with the dirt on the concrete wall, and you can do some
Yep.
wall riding, and it makes the racing really exciting.
And that is a great comparison. So let's just jump back a little bit and let's talk about your initial start in racing and what made Rico say, hey, probably dad or one of your buddies, I want to do this. What got your initial flame into the dirt track racing going? And I think if I remember correctly, you were a little bit older you weren't a real, young kid when you started your racing adventures.
Yeah, so I started racing go-karts, caged outlaw carts at 16 years old, Lanny, and I really fell in love with the sport. I was just in transition of my, junior and senior year of high school, turning 18 after my senior year and then jumping to a sprint car. But in the beginning of it all, I was always a daredevil, and I got through middle school. I was rode motorcycles and four-wheelers just growing up, on a farm with a bunch of vineyards. We had a bunch of ranch four-wheelers and dirt bikes, and we were able to get out in a lot of open areas and get the motors real wound up on the dirt bikes and on the four-wheelers. And my dad always told us the four-wheelers how dangerous they were. And we had a few accidents here and there on the four-wheelers, but we started racing go-karts right when I got out of my sophomore year of high school, I think. We got around some really good people. The Larson family, Kyle Larson's parents, got us with QRC, the Stornetta family. There's a few families there that got us to some good people that could fabricate the go-kart for me to fit in. And my dad had some open vineyard land, and we built a little track on. Rich Stadelhofer, a family business friend of ours that does a lot of business in the Napa Valley on the irrigation side. He's got a lot of heavy machinery, so they got to build us a go-kart track. And I got to burn in laps. I almost went a full year without even competing nationally in the go-karts, where I was just running laps by myself, and some friends would come over with their go-karts, and I was I just wanted to run laps and get the feel. And one of the gentlemen that worked for my father on all the equipment, he would help get the go-karts ready, and my uncle Jimmy, and he would service them up and take us to the go-kart races. And then I started racing 3 classes in one night when I was racing competitively. So I was really busy. It got my learning speed, my learning curve accelerated really quickly racing 3A mains. I was wore out, but I was so determined to I just knew how to stomp on the gas. And we got to Cycleland Speedway. It was like the Knoxville of California of go-kart racing. And
were these shifter carts, Rico?
no, they're dirt cage carts with little wings on them.
Yep, I got you.
So I used the whole QRC 500cc engine. I was 16 and a half when I started racing. I started in 250s for a season, then I went right to 500s. And then I was doing the 250s, the open intermediates. That's like the 12 to 16-year-olds, and then the 16 to and above, or the 18-year-olds, which was like the open class. And I really so I was racing 3A mains all summer long. We would race on Friday nights at Lakeport, Saturdays at Cycling, and then we would go back to Lakeport on Sundays. So I got a lot of racing in really quickly, and then Larson was transitioning from go-karts to sprint cars right in that era. It was like 2008 or 9, and then he started racing for Brent Kading, and I was really close with Larson through that time period. We just became really close friends, and I was going to all the races with him, and I was racing go-karts. And then if he ever wanted to race go-karts, he came and jumped in one of our carts. My dad had a couple extra ones. So Brent Kading came to a race, and he told us, actually it was Mike and Janet, Kyle's parents, but Brent Kading came to a race, and then we got in discussion, and he said that he could build a sprint car for me. This was like the winter of 2010. And I went to Brent's, over in January, February, and John Santamaro, a local legend of Campbell, San Jose,
Yep.
was fabricated the sprint car, and Brent and his team kind of put it together, Bud Kading, and I got to, which really got me the itch of the Gold Cup in 2009. I got in Bud's sprint car, and they have those, those mats for the old guys to get down and change the gears, Kading Performance. So,
Oh yeah, the pit mats. Yep, like all the street stock guys
we
got.
added like 2 of those up in Bud's seat, and then I sat in Bud's car and mud packed it, and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I talked my dad into putting a sprint car together with Brent Kading, and we got something fabricated where I was pretty comfortable right away. And I raced in March with the Outlaws, March of 2011. And
that was your first sprint car race?
First time ever on a racetrack in a sprint car. And
let's go with the Outlaws. Let's go
with the Outlaws at Hanford, and you can still pull the Janet Larson videoed it. It's on YouTube, and I held off the 10-time defending World of Outlaw champion in my first session of Hot Laps. He couldn't pass me. You know who that is, Lanny?
I think I might know him pretty well. Would that be Don right up the road here from me?
It was the STP number 15. And I thought I was king shit, and everyone was going crazy.
And they always say Hot Laps doesn't pay nothing.
No, but it was the coolest time of my life.
But, and that's awesome. So, you get into the sprint cars, but you're also dabbling a little bit in some other stuff on the side too then on the karts?
So I was racing. So the goal was for my first year in sprint cars of 2011 with the Kadings was to do the 16 races at Watsonville Speedway. We got a 360 engine from Ron Shaver, and that was the goal. So on the off weekends, I was still gonna go race the go-kart, and then I got pretty decent quickly, and Brent loaned us a 410 engine. So June of 2011, we went up to the Dirt Cup for the first time. We kind of did that Road to Dirt Cup back in the day, and it was like Cottage Grove, Elma, and then Skagit, I think. And we did like Chico Friday night before that, and so it was a little tour up there. So I did it, and we had a great time. And then I started racing 410s. They seemed a lot easier for me to drive than with the power to weight ratio than the 360, and it helps me out in the 360 quite a bit. So, there from June on till the end of the season, I started going back and forth with the 360 and the 410, and 16 races turned into 40 races with Kadings, and we just had a lot of fun racing.
Yeah.
We went to Vegas and did the Outlaw show in 2012. That's kind of where we opened the season up, and Matt Britt started working on my car, and Clark Riolo, and Billy Albini, and the whole Kading crew was so welcoming, and helped me, it really, really, having that experience around me sped my learning curve up really quick. And then in the middle of 2012, I got with Keith Coons, and then I split my time with the sprint car and the midget and racing with Keith Coons, for the full USAC tour, midget tour. And then I did a bunch of hit and miss NARC races with Brant through 2012.
Yeah, and in 2012, you not just got started with Kunz, it looked like you were the USAC
Rookie of the Year.
USAC Midget Rookie of the Year.
Yep.
So that was obviously a full schedule. How did you get hooked up with Keith Coons? And I know you spent a lot of times racing with Keith, but tell me about how that relationship got started.
My career got sped up really quickly when I started getting around these really intelligent mechanics in the industry, and it started from the go-karts back in 2008. I got around Keith Bloom and Karen Bloom, and they helped us get our go-kart program really sorted out to where we were winning races all the time. And then my sprint car career, I got with Brent Kading early in my career, and Brian Matherly and Bud Kading, and they fired my sprint car career off really quickly. And then I went straight to I was introduced from Kyle Larson and his parents to Keith Coons, because Kyle made that transition to USAC Midgets to run the championship. I think in 2011, he ran the USAC Midget Championship, and then he was running some non-wing sprint car stuff. My dad had a separate non-wing sprint car team, and then Kyle started dabbing in that. He would always come over and hang out at our house, and then My dad talked him into running the sprint car a little bit more, and I started getting around as I started traveling more, getting around these incredible people that worked on these race cars. They were very passionate, they were very intelligent, and that's all they did was work on race cars. And it all really generated from Mike and Janet Larson, and Kyle Larson. Early in my career, getting around these really good people. My father was very understanding of intelligent people in the industry and finding those people very quickly, and these people worked really hard, and they were very crafty at setting race cars up, and making me feel really comfortable. I think that's a big thing, is I felt really accepted around these people, Annie, and I was I was very comfortable in my environment. It wasn't really cutthroat, and it was comforting, and I was able to be really comfortable in the race car right away, to where I
Yeah.
could drive really hard and aggressive, and I got racing with Kyle all the time. Every weekend I was like racing against Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Brian Clausen, all these really badass race car drivers. So the bar was set really high, and it was all a big internal competition, and I think that's really why I became competitive so quickly. I was eager to like win races. I was hard on myself, and I wanted to be successful in this industry of motorsports.
You mentioned, and I don't want to dwell on this because it's not, it's, I just want people to understand is you and Kyle Larson go back to almost pre-race days. You guys have had a very professional relationship, but also you got to just have some friends in life too. You got to get away when you get away from the race. You got to have people you can lean on as friendship too. And you and Kyle have been there, if I'm correct, for each other from pretty much day one.
Yeah, it was like 2011. 2000, I wait, probably go back to 8 or 9. It was like my second year racing go-karts, and he was just getting out of go-karts into sprint cars, and he's a year younger than me, so we were really young. I was 17 years old, I think, when I met him. So I've known him for quite a few years, and just hit it off really good. He had the accessibility to come hang out all the time. I don't even think I had a driver's license yet. I didn't get my driver's license till I was 18. We spent a lot of time together because we ran a lot of races at the same racetracks with the same teams, and I kind of followed his career path, and grateful for my family to be able to support me through all of that, to kind of chase this really, really talented driver early in his career. And I just knew that Kyle set the bar, and he was the one to beat every weekend. And you felt really good about yourself when you did beat him, or if you get the opportunity to beat him. And early in my career, I didn't get a lot of opportunity to beat him, and so it really kept me driven and humbled to race against Kyle. And we all knew he was very, very talented early in his career, and it was so important that I continued that path of chasing Kyle Larson, and and he set the bar, and I set the bar higher to where I needed to be better every weekend. And if he wasn't there, you knew that if he was there, we needed to be 3/10 faster in qualifying, because he was going to set that pace. So it was really, really a big push for me, to get to where I'm at today, to racing against the people I race against every weekend, and to know the guy who comes in and sets the bar. And I think he's incredible for the sport. So we've had an incredible relationship over the years, and I know if it wasn't for any of that, I wouldn't, build that barrier of, where I would just be kind of a dickhead to all these guys, and he kind of set that
Yeah.
boundary with me, and at a friendship level, and so it's really cool to have that unique relationship with him, definitely.
Have there ever been any run-ins with you and Kyle on the track where somebody got frustrated, even if it was just for an hour or two? Good friends get over that stuff. But have there been any incidents
Yeah,
where
I
you
mean,
and
I,
him?
I think everybody gets tired of getting their ass kicked every weekend, and it's really taught me to go back to work and work. You got to work harder, and I have always understood and lived by the mentality of, that you beat talent when talent refuses to work harder. So you work harder than the talent. And you know, I always knew that you know, I needed to understand to set that bar higher is, you know, you got to study film, you got to race, you got to break your races down. And I've learned this through the last decade of my career, and I'm not you know, no spring chicken here. And my, if you really study my career, you know, it accelerated really quickly, and then has had some ups and downs through. I felt like people I was surrounded by, and just how eager I was, you know, at times to. It got really difficult, you know, in the mid stage of my career, probably 5 years ago, of just you know, understanding the sport of sprint car racing, trying to run a race team and balance that, and balance my marketing, and knowing you know, fan interaction at races, and not creating distractions. And you know, I really admire those drivers that have done those you know, worked on those elements of craft throughout their career, like Jason Johnson and Donnie Schatz. And you look at these guys' careers, and Brad Sweet, who've been very, very successful, and they're not just successful race car drivers, but they're successful businessmen. And for myself to put together a race team that's you know, that operates in the green, a race team that has got really good people around it, and then a race team that performs well and has unbelievable marketing. And it's taken me, you know, almost a decade to get to that level, and it's very hard to sustain that as well. And for me to go get in the race car. So I've tried to really keep my circle tight. And going, I don't want to get too far off. I know that the distractions here of, you know, keep talking, but about
No,
the
you're
race
good.
team.
You're good. Keep rolling, man.
But you know, hitting back on, you know, my relationship with Kyle Larson, and he's really driven me to where I'm at in my career, and to want to beat him every weekend. And it can get very intense. And I've looked at this when we get on the racetrack. I don't have any friends when we get on the racetrack, and I know a lot of guys race the same way. And it gets, you know, you get very ruthless out there, and you watch a guy and study a guy like Kyle Larson, and Kyle Larson races like he's the only one on the racetrack. And I know, you know, there's not too many people that can argue that against me, you know, but just watching him to who he is, and then to understanding who he is off the racetrack. And, you know, I got to have that same mentality when I get out there.
You started locally, and then all of a sudden you're out racing nationally for Keith Coons in the midget world. And the midgets have become so competitive these days. I mean, it's like a huge business, and they've got these huge stables of cars. Talk about the adjustments you had to make to commit to your first ever national series.
Back then, I took racing as you know, a learning experience, and everything was new to me. You know, just with how quickly things happened in my career. You know, I got with a really, really good team, and it was really the turning point of Keith Coons's you know, establishment, when they got Toyotas figured out. You know, they had some good funding from, you know, some rental rides, and it really allowed them to you know, pick their program up financially, to have, you know, good equipment every weekend and good employees. And you know, I really hit it at a right time there. And you know, chasing a USAC championship. Kyle was going stock car racing, so I was racing against Christopher Bell and Brian Clausen every weekend, and the bar was set really high because of Brian's experience, you know, nationally, and then Christopher
Yep,
Bell and I kind of
crazy
having
high.
the same level of experience through our careers, and we kind of you know, chase that to the stock car world. And you know, it really helped me understand those cars, and going back and forth from the sprint car. The wing drivers really picked up on you know, the non-wing racing quickly, and I think Kyle and Christopher showed that, just with the way it suited our style of you know, high speeds, driving the cars really straight, momentum based. And you know, it really you know, shown that the caliber of wing drivers, you know, coming to non-wing racing increased very quickly. And you see a lot of these non-wing racers switching over to wing
Yeah.
cars because it really helps them with their craft non-wing racing. And you know, chasing a USAC championship was incredible. And you know, I got to do it for 3 or 4 years there, and then in 2014 to win the championship and beat Bell and Brian. And
Yeah.
Tanner Thorson, and there were some incredible drivers there. Keith helped me progress very quickly of winning a championship like that at a high level.
Keith has his drivers. He has his rent-a-ride drivers. I mean, that's common knowledge these days. If you want a great opportunity, Keith can get you that opportunity too. He also has his house drivers, I believe is what he calls it too. I know Buddy was at here a couple years ago. And
Yeah.
tell me, were you one of Keith's house drivers after a year or two?
My dad helped me. So my dad
Okay.
supported me there.
Yep.
I did, 5 years there, supported, funded. We brought,
Yep.
Toyota helped with some sponsorship stuff. We understood what we were getting into. We were fully comfortable with it. I was determined to beat the house car every weekend. I thought that was, a
Yeah.
good goal for me. And, that's what kept me very motivated to go back and race. And then, and don't get me wrong, Keith Coons and Pete Willoughby supported me all through my career, and they still do today. And I still have a very close relationship with them and all the gentlemen that work on for them at that facility, in that program. And they have an amazing establishment. They've built, an empire there that is very, very successful and can, run young talented kids through their whole program to develop to be really, really good race car drivers.
What's the number one thing you can take away from those years of racing with Keith on the USAC National Tour that may still apply today?
I think that I really started to figure out their 2014, 2015, 2016. Like Keith really taught me patience as a race car driver. And I feel like that's allowed me to still utilize those skills today at a business level and at my driving craft. Um, where I don't get so antsy and worked up anymore. Keith had really taught me how to slow things down and uh, dissect races, and he taught me how to understand how to breathe when I was racing, and make good decisions on the racetrack. Although I didn't always, and I still don't today, but I still go back to think about those days that Keith really made me, like, we connected really well. And I think that's one of the main reasons why I had so much success there, because Keith was really, well, Karen Bloom in my go-kart days, and then Brent Kading made me feel really comfortable when I was there. But Keith Coons, like, I lived with Pete Willoughby for 3 years, 3 summers, and I spent a lot of time with him and Pete, or Keith and Pete, on the road, traveling, chasing a USAC championship.
Yep.
Like, and it was such a different atmosphere than what I grew up around, growing up in the Napa Valley around a well-funded family. Our lifestyle was a lot different living than, a Midwest race team. Like, I just, it was a whole different experience. So I really appreciated, like, I really understood how to appreciate things. And they taught me that, like, that humbleness. Keith never got too excited, not got too low. And he really believed in me. And I felt that. And I think that was probably 90% of my success there was Keith Coons and Pete Willoughby believed in my ability to win races when I didn't know if I was really capable of winning races at that level and I thought that was the top level of racing, right? You're with a mega team and you're
Yep.
chasing a USAC. So this was all new for me. Like, I never seen any of these racetracks we were going to. I was racing against Brian Clausen, like he was a legend when and he still is to this day, but he was like the gentleman that set the bar, in our industry at that time. And Keith made me feel really comfortable.
So let's talk Chili Bowl because we're talking midgets. And you had some pretty good success there at Chili Bowl, but I want to jump right in to 2015 because you're speaking so highly of Keith right now, and you gave him probably one of the coolest gifts you could ever giver person when you won that 2015 Chili Bowl. And not only did you give him a gift, you gave yourself a heck of a gift. But it was the first ever Chili Bowl win for Toyota. And it was his first Chili Bowl win since 2002. And if I remember correctly, you came off pretty much the top rope into his arms.
Oh yeah, I did a big leap into Keith's arms. I know he was the first one. Actually, him and Ricky Warner were they raced to my car, which was a pretty cool sight. But that was an incredible moment for me to and the all the people that were associated with the team. Toyota. Coming into the sport of midget racing, getting their first Chili Bowl win, and kind of the first time, I think Brian, dethroned the Swindells the year before, and then I came in the following year and beat Brian and Kevin, and actually in 14 I got to third and spun out with like a few laps to go in the race, and that's when I really felt like I was like, man, I really had a shot at winning this thing, and then come back the following season in 15 and won the prelim night and then won the final night at the Chili Bowl. And hearing the crowd, Lanny, chant my name was, by far the most incredible experience, sound, like heartwarming. I don't, words can't even describe, just the feeling, the butterflies going through my whole body, the tingling, is 10,000 people, whatever I think
Yeah.
that there's like 30,000 people in the whole building, but chanting my name Rico was just a very, very incredible moment. And then incredible moment for me and Keith and Pete, and to get them their first Chili Bowl win. And then to come back in 16 and do it again with Safe Light on our car was pretty badass too. It's just like I never thought I would ever win races, and then let alone win the Chili Bowl. And I just consistently stayed determined. Like I always, as hard as I am on myself, I just made sure to stay really uplifting through down times, and know that like everybody has a plan and a direction, and everything's meant to be. And I always think about winning these big crown jewel races, and knowing that winning the Chili Bowl was kind of the first time for me, knowing that like I do have a shot at possibly winning, if the cards fall correctly, some of these major sprint car events now too.
Let's just jump back for just a quick second. I didn't even realize this, but it's how ironic is that 2014, you're running in third, and you said you spun it out yourself, unfortunately. I believe, is that if that's
I
what you
hit
said? Or hit something.
I hit a banana peel getting into turn three.
Yeah, exactly. And so you go from the lowest to the lows. Was it a long year getting back to that next Chili Bowl? And then to be able to bring that win to Keith just a year later?
I was a little down after the feature. I drove back up to like 11th and 10 laps from the back, and I knew my car was incredibly fast, and that kind of set it off to that was January of 14, so then it set it off to my success winning the midget championship, USAC
Yeah.
midget championship, and I won like 12 races that year for Keith. Between Power I and USAC, I think I won six USAC features. I won a prelim night at the Chili Bowl, and then I won 4 Power I races probably. So I had an incredible season leading into 14, just after my, banana peel moment.
Yeah.
I couldn't see it out on the track at the Chili Bowl, so I was pretty pumped up about that. And then I went to New Zealand, the year before, or the over the holidays of 2014 into 2015, and did New Zealand with Chuck Gurney Jr. And I won Boxing Day, so I was like transitioning. It was my first time racing in someone else's car. I ran the Dalton's car through Aaron Drever, the old announcer at Western Spring Speedway. So I got to kind of experience that, and then I remember we kind of fought some grip issues while we were there, and new racetrack for me, at
Yep.
Western Spring Speedway, and then came back to the Chili Bowl, and I got on that D10 uh, tire or the wide
Yeah.
wheels, and I was
Yeah.
like, holy shit, this thing's got some grip now, and I was pretty pumped up about that for the 2015 Chili Bowl.
I forgot till I looked at it. You dabbled in some pavement stuff, some K&N stuff. You actually won your first ever K&N race, if I remember correctly. But you did that for 17, 18, and part of 19, I believe. What led to the start of that, and then what led to you going away from it?
15 and 16, I won Columbus Motor Speedway on 4th of July
Yep.
weekend
Yep. That's right. My bad.
in 2015. And then that was the year I won the Chili Bowl because we announced the stock car stuff. And then in
Yep.
16, I went and did the truck deal. And it was an incredible experience for me. I was wrecked a lot of shit. I crashed a lot. I was fast, but I crashed a lot. The longer races were a little bit more difficult for me to process. I was still used and pumped up about my 30 lap sprint car races. And now we're
Yeah.
doing 150 lappers, 200 lappers, and my patience is about the same as my height. So I struggled. I struggled a little bit there, but I had an incredible time racing with Harry Scott and Justin Marks's K&N team, and then Marty Lindley was my crew chief, and then switching over to the trucks. I really, looking back now, Lanny, I should have done 2 years of K&N and then got to the trucks and did 2 years of the trucks, and then I feel like I would have been in a little better position. Financially, it was all doable for us, but it was difficult for my father and I to, support a team that really wasn't at the top level in that industry. And there was a lot of human errors. And don't get me wrong, I had a lot of errors too. I crashed a lot. I was very inexperienced. I didn't pick up on things quickly. But it was just very difficult to invest in something at that level of investment. That level of investment, it was hard for me to watch my family's hard-earned money go to something like that. And I actually pushed back on my father and said that I don't want to continue to go in this direction. The lifestyle wasn't for me. I wasn't into the dress all fancy on race day, and the
Yep.
the stand out there on pit. I get it. I have nothing wrong with it. It just wasn't my deal, and I wasn't I didn't excel. My career didn't accelerate that quickly there. I wasn't successful, and I wasn't going to continue to make my father invest in something that my heart wasn't dedicated to be honest.
You spent a couple of years there dabbling in midgets and sprint cars, mostly sprint cars, but you throw in some midget races there. Then I noticed in 2021 you decided to go all sprint car racing. And I'm assuming there was a business or strategic point in that decision for you. And I'm wondering if that's accurate or if there's a different reason.
Yeah, I mean, I have from day one, I've 100% loved 410 sprint car racing. The World of Outlaws is the top series, and now I've built in the last 7 to 8 years, I've built an empire here of a race team that's far greater than just showing up to the races and racing. I've built these relationships with sponsorships. I've built these relationships at a high marketing level for partnerships and for my brand, the Rico brand, at a merchandising level. And it's very, very important to me that my car performs well on the racetrack. So I've really made it a point to surround myself by some incredibly talented mechanics that work on these race cars, and for them to be able to work at a high level. And I know this sport is very expensive, so sponsorship is a huge factor. My merchandising sales is a huge factor, and my racetrack performance and purse money that's earned is a huge factor to my race team. So I take all that very, very seriously, and I want it all ran at a very high level and a professional level. And I knew for me to get my team to the top tier series, and I mean series is just sprint car in a broad of a elite team. I needed to give it to 120% of my focus, and I just steered my direction from racing all these different race cars to solely focusing on 410 sprint car racing.
You said that your dad is obviously, and probably was, let's just say the family has sacrificed a lot for you to be able to follow your dream of dirt track racing. And you mentioned to me in one of our phone calls, for everybody that doesn't know, is we have to talk to each other to get these podcasts and stuff set up. And I was giving you a little guff, and you were proud to say that your family doesn't pay much of the travel and the racing expenses anymore. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I have I get a little emotional about it because I've grown up, in this life of I got to be around some very supportive people, and my parents are very genuine people. I'm very grateful for them. They raised me and my brother and sister very well, and we've turned out to be these, and I take pride in that. And it's allowed me to be the person who I am today because of my parents. And my ultimate goal to when I really found my place in sprint car racing, growing up, I never really knew what I wanted to be. Like I was, I loved working on tractors because we grew up around tractors. So I liked rolling around in the dirt, and I took everything apart, but I never put it back together. And so then, I started, I wrestled all through middle school, and I had that, I was that really, that built that determination in me to want to win. And, I was very, very competitive. And then I got to high school and I couldn't wrestle anymore because I was still 78 pounds and I was wrestling, it was 103s, and I was wrestling, I signed up for wrestling practice, and I got to wrestle this 103-pound kid that was 6'5", and he was a pencil. And I
Yeah.
had to, I looking up at him, and I told my wrestling coach, this ain't gonna work for me. So I found racing. Luckily, I found racing, and my father and mother were very, very supportive people through my career. And my father went to almost 90% of my races the first decade of my career, and then once my brother got out of college and started very fully investing himself into my father's business of viticulture. My dad grows grapes at a very high level. He grows perfect looking. He establishes perfect looking vineyards, and supplies these clients with the perfect berry to make their high profile wines that taste amazing. And they
Yeah.
sell these wines they don't sell a lot of wine, but they sell these wines at a very high level. So he has two different businesses, one on the wine and actual, wine you drink, and then on the vineyard management side where he takes care of these properties. And he's, it's allowed him to invest in, his children, and he's very passionate about his children and their careers. So I was very
Yeah.
grateful that my father was able to invest in my career. It's no different than investing in your child to go to college, right? And this
Yeah.
was my college, was racing with, Brent Kading, racing with Paul Silva, racing with Keith Coons, and I was going through all these different experiences around all these different professors. So it was a big learning experience for me, and I was very grateful that my father and mother supported me through my career, and I was always very humbled about it. And I knew, becoming, more involved in the day-to-day racing stuff on the business side, that I was very determined to fund my own race team at a professional level, and get it to where my father didn't have to invest in it like he used to. And it was a good goal for me to set, and I still think it's important that he's a partner of all this. And racing is definitely a very, very expensive sport, but I feel like I do a decent job in managing it at a high level.
I want to jump back to something you were telling a story about here a minute ago, and I want to let you know that Rico, I respect you 100% as a race car driver and as a person. So, it's a tough question for me to ask, but I think it's an intriguing question also. Um, Everybody knows you're a short person, and it's dwarfism is the correct word that I believe that I've looked up a little bit, and um, there's questions that I have, and I would sure many of the other people that are in our world deal with on a day to day basis. And tell us a little bit about the dwarfism, both the challenges and rewards, and some of the things you've done to help support that through your experiences that only people like you can see.
Yeah. And I think it's important that people feel comfortable about asking these questions and they're educated about it. So I was born with dwarfism. I have average height parents and siblings. My brother and sister are average height. There's no little person genes in my family. I was born with achondroplasia. It's a form of dwarfism. Basically, it's just shortness in limbs and arms. And I have a average size torso and like head and stuff, and I have a little bit of bowing in the spine and bowing in the legs, so I walk kind of goofy, which makes it stand out to people and kids. And because I just look short. I am short. So but achondroplasia is a form of dwarfism. It's like one in every 40,000 people are it's have dwarfism. It's very rare, but it happens more and more because our population keeps continuing to grow in our world. And I've which is allowed me to really respect people with disabilities, and what they're going through. And all that has generated from how I was raised and the people I was surrounded by growing up and how they treated me. I was very accepted. I never felt different. Nobody made me feel different. I was my mother and father made me do everything normal. I signed up for Little League. I used a normal bat. I ran the bases. I wrestled in high school or in middle school, and growing up, and which it allowed me to continue to have that fierce competitiveness all the time. And my best friends never treated me like I was different. And so I never really understood, Lanny, that I stood out until we got into public areas and people pointed and stared. But my parents immediately put the kibosh to it with me, and not never made a big scene to anybody or called anybody out. Where it looked, made me feel uncomfortable in the environment. My mother would
Yeah,
pull me aside and say, that this is how you were born, this is how we're going to deal with it, and you're not going to be treated differently. I've been very fortunate to not deal with a lot of bullying growing up. I grew up in a high school or a middle school, high school, elementary school with a class of 100 kids. I mean, I was around really, really good
yeah,
people. Everybody was very supportive. They wanted to see me be successful. I pushed myself. My father pushed me really hard. Like I said, I wasn't treated differently. And I look now as I'm older, and put myself in other kids' shoes with dwarfism, and I feel for them. And I make sure that anytime I'm around people with dwarfism or any disability in general, I try to put myself in their shoes and understand, how they feel. And it's a very humbling feeling, but I want to do that to myself because I want to understand. I'm trying to figure out how I can put this into words that everybody is going through something different, no matter if they're big, small, wide, however, whatever color to
yeah,
anybody is. Um, you know, that everybody's dealing with different issues in life. And going back to looking at my childhood and how I was treated is a lot to how I see things today in people, and appreciate people and their fight for just their patriotism and their fight for just to feel normal in life. And I really set this positive mindset all the time. Every day I wake up, I really set the positive mindset of, just pushing yourself and working really hard and making people feel appreciated. And I think that goes a long ways for people to see that. And, no matter what people are going through, a positive smile or just a genuine handshake and an uplifting conversation can go a long ways for somebody. And allowing people to feel so comfortable to come approach me with any questions, and I all the I deal with, there's cyberbullying all the time or a little bit of bullying here and there, and I just throw all that shit out and just keep in my lane of being positive and waking up, eager to be successful every day.
Excuse me. For people like me, and not just me, I mean, I feel comfortable asking you this because without asking the question, we don't know the answers. So, is there appropriate ways, like when we come in and talk to a little person, is it appropriate for us to come down to your guys' level? I see that some of the pit reporters kneel down when they're interviewing you and things like that. And I'm just looking for, the most way that we can respect you. I don't, like I said, I don't see any difference in you because I've known you my whole life, or not, since you've been around the racing world. But for people that want to understand that, and is there certain ways we can respect you more that way,
Yeah,
or
I mean,
show our respect?
I like when people get down on one knee. I feel like it's there's a level of respect there. You get very eye to eye conversation, and I think that you can really connect with that person, no matter if they're I'll just have general conversations with people, and they'll get down on one knee and get to my level, and and then I'm not looking up and getting a neck cramp the whole time
Yeah.
staring at them having a conversation. But I'm not gonna call someone out for it either.
Yeah.
I kind of go with the flow of things, but I feel like I can really connect with people, Lanny, when they get down to my eye level and really have a conversation.
All right. Well, I appreciate you, and that makes me feel better because, and I appreciate you being so open with us on that. So we'll move on, but I think maybe it'll help people understand moving forward. But while I do have you on that subject, talk about obviously there's some different adjustments that Rick or whoever your crew chief is that have to make for your race car. You're driving the same race car that let's use Dale Blaney,
Yeah,
the tall
tallest
one.
guy in the pits.
Yeah, they probably had to make adjustments for him one way or another, but for you to, run the pedals, run the wing valve, get your steering wheel where you want, and your steering and your seat and all that stuff, are there radical changes they have to make, or is it just some minor few changes?
I mean, there's quite a bit for me to be comfortable in a race car. So, I'm basically we moved the A-frame of the car where the back of the seat bolts.
Yep.
It's forward 6 inches, so I can reach the steering wheel when I'm in the car. And then we have these 6 inch basically shoe boxes. They're metal shoe boxes. They look like it. They're just blocks, and they're up 6 inches high, and the master cylinder's up 6 inches, and the throttle pedal obviously is up 6 inches,
Yep.
and they sit on those, and they just fabricated these cool little mounts where everything bolts onto. And for the average fan looking in my race car, you really couldn't tell a difference. And my steering box is moved forward a little bit, just a tick, where I can really get up on the wheels and get the wheel
Yeah.
and get my elbows up. And that's that's really it, Lanny. Where I'm able to be comfortable in the race car. Now in the midget with Keith Coons, it's like 3 inches forward. I mean, that cockpit's
Yeah.
obviously a lot smaller, just
Yep.
a smaller race car. And then in the sprint car, what I prioritize in is just make sure I'm really comfortable. And sometimes we'll get new chassis and they'll be off a little bit, and we'll have to make some adjustments. But I like to be able just to see right over the top of the nose wings. And then any fans that ever come up and man, they always ask, man, how do you see over the steering wheel? And I just tell them I sit on a phone book in there, and you know, and everyone's like, man, do you stand up in that thing? And I just say, yep, I'm standing up in there driving it.
So you have a little bit of fun back with them then.
Yeah, you gotta have a little sense of humor, and people get giddy or they'll get uncomfortable, and some fans walk up and I'm in my suit, and and I'm not dogging on the race fans, but you could tell they just don't know what to say walking up to me, and I'm standing there next to my race car in my suit waiting for hot laps, and they asked him, "Man, you racing tonight? Are you racing tonight?" And I said, "No, we're racing. We're racing next weekend."
Yeah, we're just here selling. We're just here handing out
Yeah,
hero cards
we're
tonight.
just at the car show.
Yeah. So one last thing that I was going to touch on, we were talking about that. Dwarfism is what we talked about to start the conversation, but
Yeah.
there are words that can almost be called slang or offensive also in your world, and people probably don't understand that. And that's something that I figured out a couple of years ago. But is that something you'd be willing to share with us on that too, just to help them understand?
Yeah, yeah, you're good. And I know it's, this is probably what everyone's thinking, but, back before all of our times, there was obviously people there's back in the day, back in BC days, there was,
Yeah.
people were born with dwarfism and they use the word, to describe themselves, is the word midget, right? And,
Yep.
and it's just I feel that with the generation or the era, that word has become derogatory towards calling someone that, but people take it differently, right? So there's comedians that still use the word, that are dwarfs, and have the same form of dwarfism. Me, I and not necessarily affected by being called names, whatever names, short guy, midget, whatever you come up with. I have pretty thick skin, but I feel for the people that it does affect, and I know it does affect people that have dwarfism, because I see messages. I talk to people that have the same form of dwarfism as me, and they become very hurtful by that word. So, and I understand that we race cars that are called midgets. I've always kind of just put the blinders on with that and never made a big stink about it because, I just love to race and don't get really bothered by name calling or what things are called, because back in the day that word was used, but nowadays I feel like it's just such an old school mentality, and it's not really something that is in a lot of people's vocabulary to be politically correct with it all, and people, you'll still get people that are gonna say it's a bunch of bullshit, and but I put myself in other little people's shoes, and I still continue to say that, and I
Yep.
feel for them because it becomes offensive. It's immature. I mean, it's and whatever you want to call it, woke and all the bullshit. I don't really put up with any of that stuff, but
Yeah.
I feel for those that are affected by it, and I just anybody that is affected by it, I just tell them to continue to believe in your theories, and don't allow people to push you around. I think that's the biggest thing, and to continue to be positive, and anybody that ever not just those words, but there's words all over that are said that are very offensive, and I think that you continue to program your brain and your mind to be positive and uplifting, and not surround yourself. I still believe in my social platforms, Lanny. I have zero negativity on there, and those people, and people will come in and out every now and then, but I have the most incredible race fans that stick up for me for any negativity or bullshit that gets put
Yep.
on my platform. I don't even need to worry about deleting it because they'll jump right on these. They're like sharks, and
Yeah.
they'll eat these people, these negative people alive. And I feel I still preach that my platforms are such a positive place for my race fans, and I continue to preach that it's a fun place, it's a humorous place, it's a positive place, and I'm continue to grow that, and I love my friend Ernest and I, we always sit down and we craft these amazing social posts that are very inspiring, and I love to just continue to grow that and hit people in all different directions, and I want to be the one to tell my story the way I want to tell it, and I'm so fortunate to be surrounded by some really really incredible people, positive people, and I've changed Ricky Warner to be a positive person, and
No way.
it's been
No
a fun
way.
time, and anytime he gets negative I give him a bunch of shit about it lighten up, and we got this is a positive place here. And anybody, my uncles, they used to be just some old grumpy guys, and I can flip the switch with them, and that's what it's all about for me.
I really appreciate you taking the time to talk about that subject and help people understand that too. It is a changing world right now, and I just think that all people are due the respect that they just earn. They don't need to earn it. They just everybody deserves the same respect. So I appreciate you talking about that just a little bit. Let's get back to some race car stuff. So,
Yeah.
um, okay, so you're just talking about Ricky Warner and Zach and Brady, correct? Those three.
Yeah.
Yep. And you got Brady Forbrook. He doesn't. He keeps things pretty light around there for you too. Your tire guy, right?
Oh yeah, he's Brady's a great ball of energy for my team, a great balance. He's an incredible friend of mine. I love racing with Brady. I love hanging out with him outside of the races. Him and he's kept me really, really motivated to stay fit and energized at the races. We work out together before the races. During the week spend a lot of time together in the shop. And he really pumps me up at the track to want to win these races and win for my team. And Zach, Middlebrooks, who's been with me for 5 years now, incredible, loyal guy that, I would die on the sword for, to be honest, who's helped me, just grow my race team and allow it to get to the next level because he, sees eye to eye with me, on a lot of the decisions we make. And then, um, you know, going to Ricky. Ricky has become like a father to me. I've known Ricky for basically almost all of my racing career. I watched him, through all of his success with Don and TSR, and I've had these incredible moments with him before I started racing with him, where I got to go to his house. And I always, the back when Rick was, racing with Dawn all the time, I stayed at his house. His wife, Danelle, treated me like her son, and I never forgot any of that. And, in the transition there from him to TSR to my team was a bit awkward, and I know Ricky was in a tough spot, and to be honest, I understood that he was in a tough spot there, and I felt like there was a right time for me to be able to put all my eggs into one basket and go after a guy like Ricky Warner, and I understood, when I had to switch from Paul Silva and raced a few years, without Paul Silva, and I really got my ass kicked racing, and I was really determined to be successful without Paul Silva working on my car because I knew how incredible Paul Silva was at working on race cars. I knew the only guy that I was gonna get to be successful was Ricky Warner, so I made a really really big push to get Ricky, but I genuinely um, loved Ricky before that.
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
a very huge step to my career, and Ricky Warner is the best crew chief probably ever to go through this industry. On the stats. And as I look at it as the best crew chief as a person because he genuinely believes in me. I have that same connection with him that I had with Keith Coons. You know, I can feel that Ricky loves me, and I feel that same feel that my father gave me why I was growing up, and still to this day what my father gives to me. So I treat Ricky as a father and son to me, and I know his love for his kids and his family. And Ricky is switched on 100% racing all the time. And that's what's made him so successful to this day is, because his light switch is always on when it comes to racing. And, I always have been so critical to my driving and never questioned his ability to work on my race car. And he's made me feel like that he could get the car better for me to perform well, and that's really what has allowed us to have a lot of success in a short period of time of us working together.
Rick has the experience too, and like you said, I know that his light switch never turns off. When he was with TSR, I had to share a room with him a couple different nights, and we'd get back from the car wash
Hey,
after.
Lanny, did you get to
Yeah,
see that thing go
yeah,
around there? I don't know
yeah,
about if that
yeah.
bar package was that good.
Yeah, do you think we're way down? Are we winged down, way too much? And I mean, like, dude, I'm ready to get a shower, and he's still thinking. So that's Rick, and that's why he's so successful, also.
He's the man.
Yeah. So you're on your second full year chasing points with the high limit series. It looks to me like you're fifth in points right now, something like 90, 92 points out. Still young in the year, with a huge month of May coming up. You guys, in my opinion, started just a little slow. I figured with you and Rick on your second year or third year that this was going to be the year you guys came out on blast. And you kind of put it on pause for about the first 7, 8 races, in my opinion. But man, the last 5, 6, 7 races is what I was expecting. So how excited are you for this big month of May coming up, and June? Because I looked, you have, I wrote it down here. You guys actually, in the month of May, you have 15 of 31 nights you're racing. I believe they're all high limit races. And then in June, you have another 15 races in 28 days. I know there's 30 days in June, but I was looking through the 28th. So you guys got a lot of racing coming up. Can you close the gap on Brad and the other guys in front of you? What's it going to take, and how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm we're further ahead than we were last year at this point. 10 races into the year.
Yeah.
We're way further ahead. I feel like I should have won Vegas, but I ran out of fuel, and I had a flat tire and ran out of fuel. So that really set us, back in some points. And then I got into a crash at Bakersfield that necessarily wasn't, my cause. I had a couple cars crash in front of me and got back out, and I actually gained, not going to a DNF, I gained 12 points. So
Yeah.
if I win the championship by 12 points, it's because of Bakersfield. But right now my focus is on I don't know if it's Brent Marks. I think it's Brent Marks, Tyler, and I don't know who else is up there in points. I don't really watch
Yeah, and I didn't
full
look.
points
I
in.
just looked to see where
But
you were at, but
I feel like right now I'm racing Brent Marks, for position and points. The last 2 weeks, 3 weeks here, we've really got our car wound up to where I have a comfortable balance unloading. So we unload, and I feel really good in hot laps, and we make minimal adjustments throughout the night. There's not a lot of dogfighting going on with us in the pits right now, so it's everything's flowing really smoothly, and I'm
yeah.
pretty pumped up about it. Like, I'm proud of my team to be working really good together, communicating. I've really made a huge effort this year in a leadership aspect of myself in communication with Ricky, Zach, and Brady, and like breaking down these races, dissecting. I need to explain my car a few different ways to Ricky, I think, to get him to think about and process. And I've been taking notes, and I backtrack on my notes, and Ricky can get going. He gets going at the races sometimes, and can get me really confused because he's so smart when it comes to watching the race car and knowing what it needs, but then he can get me confused by asking me the same thing but 10 different ways. And
Yes.
then I give him a different answer one time, and then he asks me a whole different way, and then I give him a different answer again. And it gets so I have to do a better job dissecting, which I've been taking my own notes, and working on my communication skills. So I'm putting in a massive effort here to not let the team get riled up when things are going bad, and know that there's a big picture here. We got a 60 race championship. We're going after Brad Sweet, who doesn't finish outside the top 7, and if he's gonna, he's a seventh to first place car, and we have to get our car into, or our performance into that range. But right now we're not racing Brad Sweet. We're racing, Brent Marks for fourth in points, and then once we get Brent Marks, we're gonna go to Tyler Courtney and whoever's Reitzel.
Yes.
We're gonna
Thank
chase
you.
these
Yeah.
guys down one at a time, and that's gonna be our goal for this season. And then hopefully we get to Brad here. at the end of the year. And it's going to take podium finishes and race wins. High Limit pays extra points for podium finishes and race wins. So that's the goal right now, is to turn our top fives into podiums, our podiums into wins, and our top tens or our 15th, our bad nights need to be like 15th to 12th place finishes, and then you can't have too many of those. So I don't get too caught up in chasing the point thing. I just focus on each weekend who we need to be in front of, and not putting myself in jeopardizing positions. So I've really studied Donnie Schatz's career, really studied David Gravel's career, Brad Sweet's. I'm very inspired by their careers. They're very successful race car drivers, very consistent race car drivers, and but ultimately, Lanny, I want to win races. My goal this year, I set it quite high. I set myself at a high limit championship, a Knoxville Nationals, and I wanted to win 25 races. So we got 23 to go. We're chasing these guys down in points. We're getting real consistent right now, and it could all unravel just like that. But right now it's not. So you just keep working hard. I take my fitness really seriously, nutrition very seriously right now. I'm very determined to have the best presentation at the races when it comes to a race team and my merchandise and the fan aspect. I'm very determined to have the most fans in sprint car racing. My heart is in sprint car racing. I love sprint car racing. It's all I think about is racing sprint cars all the time. And I try not to get too caught up in the logistics of like setting a race car up, but
Yep.
I feel like I need to get to that next level to compete with a guy like Brad Sweet and David Gravel and Larson. I feel like to compete a guy like Kyle Larson, you have to be on your A game all the time, and that's going to be the breadwinner for us is beating Larson at the Knoxville Nationals.
That's a great goal to have. You got to set those goals up there, so you got to really bust your tail to make sure that they get there. And that's what's cool about you is you've basically committed your life to sprint car racing right now when it comes to the marketing side, the apparel side, and the driving side. So, what else is there except let's get to the next racetrack, right?
Yeah, I mean racing and then racing good, right? So it's
Yeah.
it takes an army of people to get to this level in this sport, at the highest level, up there with the you know Todd Quirin's team, Casey Kane Racing, Tony Stewart Racing, Paul Silva's team. Those teams are
Yeah.
Brad Marks's team, Brian Brown's team. Those teams are all ran at a very, very high level, and they're successful race teams on the business side, and they're successful race teams on the performance side. And I've really took a huge leap at this, and know that like it takes everything I have and all of my willpower to want to be up there with them. And two, that I can't get too distracted here on the marketing side or the performance side, or I need to also have balance in my life, my personal life with my wife, and Gus, my dog, who brings an incredible amount of happiness to me and my wife. I travel with her every day. We don't have normal lifestyles. Like she doesn't work a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
We're in the t-shirt trailer. She hears all my bullshit after the races. If we don't run good, even if we do run good, going up and down the road, she sees all the highs and lows, and I'm incredibly grateful for her, and wouldn't be nowhere near where I'm at today without her. So I'm very fortunate to have someone, and it's genuinely like I have genuine that love for someone. She's my partner in crime, and I would, like I said, never be there without where I'm at without her, but never see myself without her in my life. So it's really cool what we got going on here, Lanny.
Morgan is Don her dad?
Megan.
Megan, yeah, jeez. And I knew that too. Is Don her dad?
Yeah, Don Droud
Yeah,
Jr.
and I just want to touch on that for people that might not know is you married a sprint car gal kind of too. She grew
Yeah,
up around it too with her
she's
dad
in it.
raced a lot. Yeah, so
She's
you
in
kind
it.
of hit the gold mine there too. And
Oh yeah,
and
she
and
understands how it goes.
and Gus, miniature golden doodle, right?
He is just like his dad, just like me.
Well, I can relate with the love you get from your dog because Rusty, my miniature golden doodle, is laying in his bed here for the last 2 hours watching me, and they are like
He's just hanging
they're like a
out.
child. They are like another
Yeah,
human being. So I can totally relate with you when it comes to the doodle side. And I've
we
seen Gus.
baby we baby the shit out of him too. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
he runs the freaking show.
yeah. Isn't it
And
crazy? Yeah,
we've gotten so lucky with him, Lanny, with how he treats the race fans, like how comfortable he is. He just lays
yeah,
on the merch trailer, the vending door there opens up, and he wants to get up there and lets everyone pet him. And
yeah.
he's a great comfort. He's a great barrier for the fans that that some aren't as comfortable to approach, or
And the
they if
kids
they're
too. Yeah,
and the kids love Gus, and he
yeah.
lets them pet him. And we got really lucky. We got a zoo. We got a petting zoo on the market on the merchandising side of the business, and then we got a bunch of traveling carnies on the racing side of it.
Exactly,
And they're
exactly.
carnies. We're a bunch of carnies with cool shit.
Yeah. So you take your own merchandise trailer then?
Megan and I and Gus drive the merchandise trailer to every single race, and then Brady, Zach, and Ricky are in the race hauler, and we just travel together. I'll leave probably an hour or so before them on race day just to get parked and set up,
Yep.
and then they'll come in. Ricky likes getting to the track early so he can
Oh
burn the
yeah.
phone up and see what setup we're putting in.
Well, and you, like I said, in May, you're probably not going to be home much because I look at that schedule and it's kind of crazy. So,
No, we go on the road. We leave tomorrow. We go on the road for 2 weeks straight, and we come back for Kokomo for 2 days, and then we go to New York, Pennsylvania, and then we come back for 2 days, and then June we go to Wisconsin for a week, and then go to Knoxville for a week, and then we race at Eagle, and then we're
South
off
Dakota. No, then you're coming to Houston.
Houston's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you're coming to
Houston's.
my
I got a
backyard.
new big sponsor for Houston's.
Do you? Can you
We're
announce
gonna
it now?
that soon. I'll give you guys a hint. It's gonna be orange, a tractor company.
Ah, I think I know, but I'm just gonna wait.
We'll let the fans figure it out.
We'll let them figure it out.
A whole new race car look. I'm super excited to announce it here in a couple weeks. I wore their race suit at Knoxville, so I'll leave it the other night when I won. So
People will be digging back through that. Now I know for sure what it
back
is.
through the archives and go find that.
Well, one thing you'll find is guys doing podcasts are going to try to find out what the guy that they're talking to has done the last couple weeks. I was there to see it in person a week ago Saturday night. I was hanging out down in the work area, but but we got it back out there. But then, like I said, I watched you guys Saturday night too, and you really did have not just the car, but you looked flawless. The car was really, really nice, like Robert said too. Rico, thanks so much for coming on again tonight. I know you guys are super busy getting ready to go on the road, and I know we had to kind of juggle our schedule around a little bit to get together. But you asked how long this is going to be. Well, we're looking on an hour and 35, hour and 40 minutes. So it's amazing how fast it goes when you get to talking. And, you were a champion answering all our questions and giving us all kinds of stuff. I know I'll see you down the road somewhere. Fans, if you get the chance to see Rico, stop by, buy some stuff at his t-shirt trailer, pet his dog, go look at his race car, and just talk to him. He's just a good old boy like the rest of us. So, Rico, I'll see you on down the road.
Lanny.
And good luck on your racing ventures.
Take care. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, that was some real cool stuff from Rico. Learned a lot about him, learned a lot about how he got started, some great stories from him coming up through the ranks, and some of his expectations moving forward. So it's going to be fun to keep an eye on Rico as he progresses through the season. I want to thank all of you for joining me again this week. I can't do it without your support. Like I said earlier in the show, if you can hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button on any platform you're watching, I'd just really appreciate that. Want to send out a special thanks once again to the people behind the scenes that helped me out a little bit. Krista Strand does a great job for me, getting some of my cover art and stuff done for me. Couldn't do it without her. My twin brother Lonnie Nichols is showing me the ropes on a lot of the stuff that goes behind the scenes to try to make this show better every week. So appreciate their help. Once again, thanks for tuning in. We're going to be back with some great stuff coming up next week for sure. I've got some really exciting people lined up. Shouldn't have any more misses here for the next couple of weeks. So thanks again for tuning in. See you all at the racetrack.